Jewish holidays, 3 kilograms, people, thousands and thousands of people would come here to the temple. And we're now arriving, and we're going to walk by the houses that are closest to the temple. And they had a tradition when all these thousands of people are coming here, these people who live right next to the temple would host them. And they would have a tradition where they would put a ribbon outside their house. If the ribbon was white, that would mean we still have more room, we can still come inside our house. They would give out their beds, their food, anything they had. But if the ribbon was red, that would mean that's it, we're fully packed, we have no more room, we have to find somewhere else to sleep and eat. But the people who are coming here, they don't really care about where they're going to sleep at night or what they're going to eat. They only care about one thing. They've walked for so long, and the only thing they finally want to see is the temple. So once they reach the top of these stairs, the first thing they're going to see is this. And right in front of you, this is the western wall, and this is the southern wall. So when you just enter this place, this is the corner you saw in front of you. And this right here is called the Robinson Arch. What we have outside today is only about these 2 rows of stones that are coming out of the western wall, which probably when you go outside you're going to see better. But before it was destroyed, we had this whole arch here. And this was a very main important point, because when people came here, this is the first thing they saw, and they would come here and meet around this area. But even more than that, right on top of this arch there is a huge junction with steps that right here you can see that there is an entrance to the temple. But this entrance is not meant for everyone. It's meant only for the very important people. That means only the very high priests, or someone who is very wealthy and he can pay enough money to go up these steps, stand all the way on the top of the arch, see the beautiful view, and then enter through the VIP gate. Anyone else? Any ordinary person who came here and wanted to enter the temple had to go from the southern gate, which we're going to see after we make a couple of stops. So when these people get here, they have to, first of all, stop at the market. And the first shop we're going to stop by is this man right here. What is this man doing? What is he doing? Changing. Money change. He is the bank. These people come from outside of Jerusalem, and the first thing they do when they get here is to change their money in order to buy food, in order to buy water. But the most important store we have here is what? The sacrifices. Almost every person who comes here to the temple needs to buy the sacrifices right to the temple. But I just want to show you, this is what the shops look like today. So you can see they stay in very good condition, but when you look at it, it doesn't seem like the stores are very big. They're very, very small. And the types of sacrifices that we have are cows, sheep, chickens, and doves. How many cows do you think you can fit in one of these kind of stores? 1, maybe 2 if they're pretty small. And we're talking about thousands of people who are all coming here and all want to buy sacrifices. So how do we keep up with the pace? And where do we keep all these animals if these stores are so tiny? So what happened was, just like today, here in this market, it was only a showcasing window. They would showcase the 4 different types of animals you can buy, and then every person who comes to this place, he sees the variety, and then he chooses whatever he wants, depends on the occasion he came here. He pays for it here, he pays for the animal, and then he gets this very small stone. The small stone is like today's receipt. It has the word sacrifice on it and a drawing of the type of sacrifice he chose. He takes this stone with him all the way to the high priest, and he gives it to him, and then up there on the temple, there was a room with storage where they would store all the animals. So when the high priest gets this small stone, he knows exactly what he needs to sacrifice. And this was also a pretty good deal for, let's say, a woman who's just given birth. The Bible says she needs to come here and she needs to buy 2 doves. This woman has just walked about 2 weeks with her baby, taking care of him this whole time, but she's just given birth. She needs to come here and then buy a cage with these 2 doves and carry on the one hand her baby, on the other hand the cage with 2 doves, and then walk all the way to the high priest. It's not such an easy project for a woman who has just given birth. So instead of carrying also the cage, she just carries a small stone in her pocket, which is much, much easier. So after they've already bought their sacrifices and their food and whatever they need for the stay here, they need to make only one more stop. But this is the most important one. If they do not stop here, we're talking about the Jews, of course, they cannot enter the temple. And if they do enter, it is considered a very, very big sin. So I'm talking about the ritual bath, what's called in Hebrew the mikveh. And we're going to see what a very typical mikveh ritual bath looks like. This is what it looks like. You can see it's filled with water. Inside was only holy water, which means only water that comes straight from the rain. You can't bring it from anywhere else. This is why part of the top of this place was not covered, so the rain could just drip straight inside this ritual bath. And what you can also see is there is a division here in the middle between the two sides. Why do we have this division? Not for when men and women, because men and women have separate ones. One side is for the entrance and one side is for the exit. But even more than that. One side is for the pure and the other side is for the impure. When you get here, there's a huge line standing outside for all the people who are impure. You come inside this place, you dip inside the water, and you come through this side once you're already purified. If someone who is already purified himself touches even by mistake someone who is impure, he becomes impure all over again. And then he would have to go all the way to the back of the line, wait a few more hours, thinking this whole time he could have already been in the temple if he hadn't touched the other person. So to save this whole process, we invent this division in the middle so people would know not to touch each other once they get out of the ritual bath. And this is what it looks like today. So you can see it's in very good condition. We have it outside here in the archaeological part, and even now during the winter when it rained, it got filled up with water, so it just looked exactly the same as the one you see here. So when archaeologists come here to this place, they find hundreds and hundreds of these all over Jerusalem. Of course, not only in Jerusalem, but we're talking about Jerusalem. And they found so many because back then people were very, very strict about keeping the laws of purity and impurity. Because as I said, it's considered a very big sin to enter the temple if you are impure. But what they also found is an average of between 3 to 8 of these ritual baths in one house. That's a lot. Who can have 8 of these in one of their houses? It's very, very expensive. You have to dig it all the way underground. You have to make sure that rainwater will come inside, and Jerusalem is always lacking water. So who can afford to have so many? So what they found out that it was usually only the very high priests. The high priests back then, they were very, very wealthy because they got a lot of gifts. They didn't have to pay for anything. They got all their food. So they had a lot of money. And because this was so important for them, they wanted to make sure that even before they're eating, they will dip inside this. So even the plates they're touching and the food they're eating is all purified. So as we were walking, we are arriving at the southern wall, which is the main entrance to the temple for any ordinary person who is not a high priest or someone who is very, very wealthy. And we're going to see that we have 2 gates. Right in front of you right now, you see the triple gates with the 3 doors, and on the left we're going to see the double gates with the 2 doors. Why do we need 2 gates here? This place would have thousands of people. They all wanted to enter. People would be pushing each other, so we want to organize it. So on the right, where the 3 doors are, that would be the main entrance, and on the left, where the 2 doors are, that would be the main exit. But 3 different people would actually enter from the exit. A person who lost something, a person who is mourning someone, or a person who is kicked out of the community. Once he enters through the exit, any person coming out knows that something happened to him because he's not going in from the main entrance. Then maybe he'll have to find what he lost or comfort him for being kicked out or for losing someone. These gates here are called the Hulda gates. Hulda in Hebrew means a rat, like a mouse, a rat. And this is a very strange name. Why would you call the gates to the holiest place there is? The temple is right inside here, the rat gates. So we have 2 options. First option is during the first temple, there used to be a prophet, and her name was a rat. People say that when she died, she was buried around this area. This is why we name it after her, the rat gates. But the second reason is we're going to enter right now inside the pathway that leads to the temple, and you're going to see that the pathway leading to the temple is like these very small, dark tunnels. And where do rats fall through? Small, dark tunnels, which just reminded all the people of rats. And the place we're walking in right now is where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is today. The big black dome you see, this is just the area we're walking in right now, and you can see that they may actually even decorate the ceilings because here it's like just like everything very, very fancy. And we're just going to walk all the way through this very dark path, and once we're going to enter the outside, you're going to see what they finally dreamt about for so long, finally seeing the temple. And just once they enter the outside of this very dark path, this is what they finally see. And when these people come from this very dark pathway, their eyes are very, very small, and when they come out of this light, all the light reaches his face, and this temple appears very, very big to them. It makes a very big impression on them, and this is exactly what they wanted. Nothing in the temple is built by mistake. Everything has a very, very specific reason. And this is exactly what people want. They want that once people will arrive here, they won't just think that it's a very nice building. They will understand they've arrived at the holiest place there is. And you can even see here on the right the smoke. The smoke is coming out from the sacrifices. So inside here there was a room where they sacrificed all the animals. And we are right now standing in the main courtyard. So who do you think can come and stand here? Can Jewish men be here? Yes, no, yes. Jewish women, what about them? Also, what about non-Jews? Why not? Until there. This is the main courtyard, which means any person that wants to come to the temple can actually come here and stand here. But into the temple itself, and into the Holy of Holies, only Jews can come inside. This is why we have just right outside of the temple a fence with a sign. Can anyone read what it says? So this is written in ancient Greek, and what the first lines say is, "Dear visitors, the entrance from here on is for Jews only." But think about it, a tourist, he's just walked about a month to get here to Jerusalem. He finally gets here to the temple, and then he sees this very small sign telling him you cannot enter. He's probably not going to listen to what it says. This is why we have two more lines to the sign saying if you do enter, it is at your own risk only, because you're going to get punished. What? Last word, last line. Fanatom. Fanatom is death. Of course, there's no one standing here with a gun to shoot them once they enter if they're non-Jews, but they should know that God is always watching them. They're going to get punished if they do enter and they're not Jews. So this is written not in Hebrew, even though it's on the fence to the temple. It's on the wall outside the temple, because back then Greek is considered the international language, just like English is today. Any person who came here and was a little bit educated could probably read this sign. So you can see we also found this sign here. We found two of these. One of them is in the Israel Museum, and the other one, when the Turkish come here, they take one back for themselves, so it's over there. So when the Romans see this, they are not happy about it. They don't understand how is it possible that they're the main empire ruling around here in this area, and these Jews are telling them, you cannot enter our temple. And they were very mad, and they decided to build something else that they considered to be nicer and prettier. What you see here is called the royal portico. They even built the 2 stories high, so during the hot summers of Jerusalem, it would be covered and not under the sun the whole time. And they tried to make it look as fancy as they can. Romans lacked a lot of columns, so you can see that they just placed thousands of columns here. They're not regular ones. If you look at the top, you can see that they're decorated with gold and all sorts of decorations. And here they look pretty small, but the actual size, you need 3 people spreading out their hands in order to circle one of these. So you can imagine how huge these columns are, and this just made the place look very, very fancy. And here they would come here, they would have shops here, they would exchange gifts here, they would just meet here, and they thought this place was nicer and fancier, and it was a temple, instead of a temple that they couldn't reach. But back to the Jews now, we're going to see now a man, he's standing right on the southwestern corner, the same corner we saw the arch is right under us, and can you see what this man is holding in his hands? A trumpet. And right next to him there is a sentence in Hebrew. And what the sentence says is lebeit, for the house. Hatki'ah, of the trumpeting, lehavdi, which means to make a difference. So what was this man's job? It wasn't only to stand here and say when danger is coming to the city, or to say to announce when there's a festival or a holiday. His main job was to stand here every Friday and announce when the holy day, when Shabbat is arriving. So he would stand here every Friday and blow his trumpet 3 times. First one was about 12 o'clock, so we're talking 4 or 5 hours before the holy day actually arrives, where all the people are working out far away from home in the fields to tell them to start walking all the way back. Second time was about 4 or 5, so we're talking an hour and a half before, for all the people who are still cooking food, still buying from the market, still selling things to start loading everything up. Third time was when the sun was down and they finally, so the holy days finally arrived. But this stone that you see here wasn't found on top of these walls. It was found all the way down on the ground. How did it reach the ground? When the Romans destroyed this place, they put all the stones down. So back then, Jerusalem is divided into 2 parts. We have the upper city and we have the lower city. And the people who lived on the top were the very, very wealthy people, the high priests, maybe even the Romans, and on the lower city, everyone else. So the common people who are poor, and the people on the top, because they were so wealthy, they used to have servants. And they would send their servants out every day telling them to bring us more food, and at some point their servants are coming back and telling them there is no more food left. But what they don't know is people on the lower city are actually starving to death. It's not exactly that they don't know, they just don't care. There's even a story about two priests. These two priests are on the way to sacrifice an animal, and the second priest sees the first one is walking faster than him, but he wants to be the one to bring the sacrifice. So does he just ask him nicely, can I bring the sacrifice? Not really. He takes a knife, he runs up to the first one, and he stabs him. The first priest now falls on the ground, but the second one is now very happy. He's able to do exactly what he wanted, sacrifice the animal, and he thought this was totally okay. There are hundreds of people looking around at what just happened, and the father of the priest who just fell down sees what just happened. And he runs up to his son, and you would think, okay, like every normal father is going to do, he's going to take care of his son. He comes to his son, he takes a knife out of his leg, and he shows everyone. But he doesn't calm him down by saying, don't worry, my son is going to be okay. He shows him the knife and tells him, don't worry, this knife is still pure. Since his son is not dead yet, this knife can still be used. It's still considered purified, and it didn't become impure. So this father cared more about the knife being pure than about caring for his son, who is injured right under him. So back then, people at some point, at the end of the Second Temple period, cared more about keeping laws, which is, of course, also very important, but the most important thing is the most basic thing, caring for one another, especially for your own son. And this is one reason that leads to the destruction of the temple. In 70 AD, the Romans come inside here, they burn the whole temple down. They go also to the top of the wall and start pushing all the stones down to destroy everything that's around around the walls, around the temple. Once you're going to go outside, you're going to see some of the destruction. And since the lower city is just right next to it, they also destroy the lower city. But it takes them a month to destroy the upper city because they were fighting from a lower point, and the people were on the top. So it's harder to fight when you're coming from the lower part of the mountain. But a month later, everything here was destroyed. So most of the things we saw here today don't exist outside, but you are, I think, going to go outside now and see the things that we do have left today. Do you guys have any questions?
Which is the western wall? Where is that along?
The western wall is this one, and the place where people come to pray, so the Wailing Wall is around this area here.
Yeah.
The things that you were telling us, there's come from any specific book like Josephus, or?
Some of them are from Josephus, but some of them are also from the Bible, from different scriptures we have.
Where's the city of David?
The city of David is right around this area. So it's outside of it's inside the second walls and third walls, but so just outside of the first walls that were built here. Today it's outside of the walls because the walls we have outside today are the new walls that were built in the 16th century, so it's much later. Anything else?
And where is the Pool of Shalom?
It's, I have to zoom all the way out. It's just right when we enter, so it's the beginning of the lower cities, just right next. It's very close to the city of David, and you can see it right here. This pool that you see here is
That's the Pool of Siloam where we end up in the afternoon, and Hezekiah's tunnel leads to that shore.
Yeah.
And that whole ridge there that's yellow, that's the city of David, also where we'll be this afternoon.
Okay, guys, any more questions? Okay, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the trip here.
Hold on.
Okay, we'll go back upstairs.